Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are very excited to have you here tonight for this amazing Empower Week event. The UCLA Women in Engineering program, known as We at UCLA, is absolutely thrilled to partner with our three amazing student organizations: Women Advancing Technology Through Teamwork, or WAT, the Association of Computing Machinery W Women, ACMW, and the Society of Women Engineers, SWE. We're here tonight to talk about personal safety, and we have a very exciting program for you tonight, so we hope you enjoy it. I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. As a land grant institution, UCLA acknowledges the Gabrielino Tongva peoples as the traditional land caretakers of Tavangar, the Los Angeles Basin, and Southern Channel Islands. We pay our respects to our ancestors, elders, and our relatives and relations, past, present, and emerging. We're here tonight to have a workshop called ABC, or Always Be Careful, and it's addressing personal safety concerns. And this particular presentation will have a focus on personal safety concerns for women. We are thrilled to have Officer London McBride with us from the UCLA Police Crime Prevention Department. It's my honor to present to you Officer London McBride, and here's a little bit about his background. London has 15 years of diverse law enforcement experience as a patrol officer, field training officer, lead officer, and detective. London is an instructor and practitioner in equity, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace, procedural justice, and implicit bias. London is regularly involved in community projects and serves on various committees at the UCLA Police Department and within his home city of Culver City. He is currently a member of the Culver City Policing and Public Safety Committee and was appointed to a 3-year term on the Culver City Equity and Human Relations Committee. London's heart has always been about serving others and demonstrating the importance of being a compassionate leader with integrity. Above all, London works to increase transparency, accountability, and authentic relationship building on all levels while implementing leadership development programs to train leaders who will, in turn, produce even greater leaders in our society. He believes that great leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. London is also the president of a newly formed organization called Police Against Racism, or PAR, where their mission is protecting the people we serve by changing the way we serve. Join me in welcoming Officer London McBride.
Thank you, Audrey. I appreciate it. I was like, when you were reading, I was like, who is this dude she's talking about? But oh my goodness, no, that gee whiz. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for allowing me to join you all this evening, just to kind of talk to you about personal safety. I love this series. I mean, I wish I would have known about it from the beginning, because that would have been cool just to come in and see what was going on. But thank you for the invite. I'm gonna try not to bore you with PowerPoint stuff, but I do have some slides I just want to go over with you. But ultimately, I want this just to be an environment where we can learn from one another, where we can put to rest some of the fears and some of the issues that we might all deal with, and tend to see or hear about on the daily. So I'm here. You can ask me questions. You can throw them in the chat. You can shout them out if you have to. Raise your hand, anything like that. We'll get to them. But I'm here for you all, and I want to be able to answer all your questions to the best of my ability. So with that, I appreciate your time. My name is London. I've been here. I've been here for about 15 years. I've had some cool opportunities to serve our campus community in various roles. My last role before coming to crime prevention, I was a threat management detective. So all the threats that came into UCLA, or the people, or any student, staff, or faculty, I was the person that got to deal with those threats and track people down and stuff like that. So that was part of my daily routine. I was pretty heavy on social media. If you would come in my office, you would see Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and you name it, all over the place, because that's what I used. That was one of the tools that I used to do my job. But since then, I went back out to patrol, and for about a year, and it was during COVID, I really got to see the effects of what was going on in the world, especially through the lenses of our patrol officers. So being able to talk to them and kind of lead them into a different direction in regards to how to be better servants of our community and our campus community is what I tried to do. Did that for about a year and a half, then came back upstairs to to crime prevention. So crime prevention, honestly, is right up my alley because it gives me an opportunity to talk to people, to have these conversations like this, and just to be around folks. I really don't like wearing a super suit all the time. This is my new outfit. I get a polo shirt and some slacks. So I get to do that. And I'm wearing Vans too, so I don't have to wear those boots. So I pretty much get to chill. So if you all see me walking around campus, you probably wouldn't even recognize me because I'm not in the uniform. But hopefully you remember my face. So that's just a little bit about me. Grew up out here in California, grew up in Carson. Anybody from the South Bay, throw your hands up. So I grew up there, and I've been on the West Side ever since I got back from college. I went to college in Utah, Utah State. So I froze my butt off for about 5 years. And it was crazy. My first day of class, it was snowing, and I decided, or the first snow that I experienced going to class, I came downstairs, slipped, and I went back inside because I wasn't used to that snow. But the reason why I tell these stories is just because I want you to know, I want you to relax. I want you to know that I'm here for you all. And I want this to be an environment where basically you can trust me on what I'm telling you, and we can trust one another and build this relationship, because this is not a one-time thing. You'll see more of me. We'll have more of these talks, and we'll grow and learn together. So I just want to take this time just to start this presentation. I'm going to share my screen with you, and then we'll get started. Let me go to the beginning, sorry. All right, can everybody see that? Good to go. All right. So the title, as you can see, is Refuse to Be a Victim. The reason why we're talking about this, refuse to be a victim, is that there's been, I guess, a misconception about what it means, when you're going through some kind of traumatic experience, what to do. There's a lot of school of thought that talks about either be a submissive type of victim or be the type of victim that will fight back, and because you value your life, and you refuse to be just another casualty out there in the rest of the world. So this program was actually established in '93 by the NRA, and it was developed for women to give them the tools necessary from the mental to the physical about when you're walking around or in your own spaces, how to be safe. So this is where we start. What do you think when you hear the word criminal? You can actually answer if anybody wants to answer. What do you think when you hear the word criminal? Do you associate it? Do you associate it with like any specific person? Because there are actually no stereotypical criminals. You know, back in the day, I'll be honest, growing up in the neighborhood, growing up in Carson, you knew, you kind of knew who the gangsters were because they had a style of dress. So you would be able to see it. But now, just to be honest with you, there are no stereotypical criminals. You watch TV and you think, you know, it's funny because we start to associate what we see in social media or television. We start to think that those are the same people that we see out in the world. So when you go out someplace and you was like, you know what, I was watching CSI, and this is what that criminal looked like. Or I was watching, you know, whatever show you were watching, you start to think that this is what criminals look like. But there are no stereotypical criminals. They could be any gender, any race, any age. There's absolutely no specific profile on them. So going to the psychology of criminal predators, why do some criminals want to harm other people? Why do they want to harm other people? And I think that's probably one of the questions that we all ask ourselves, including us in law enforcement. Why do people want to harm other people? Power and control. Has anybody ever heard of that or ever seen that before when they talk about domestic violence, when they talk about stranger or acquaintance assaults, dating assaults, or, you know, physical assaults, sexual assaults. This is what it's about. It's about power and control. Our society, sad to say, our society has always been about keeping women at a level of submission. And because of that, men tend to try to exert power and control over women because they feel that they're subservient, and that we kind of push this agenda that they are. So when you see situations like this, any kind of domestic violence incident, any kind of stranger assaults or stranger rapes or things like that, a lot of those things have to do with power and control because of what society has told men or told people in general, that this is how women should be treated. And we all know that that's terrible. So refusing to be a victim comes like this: mental preparedness. How do you mentally get yourself ready just in case you happen to be a victim one day? I mean, we all say, you know, if this happens, and hopefully, you know, it's not a when it happens situation, but if by chance you become a victim, we want you to be mentally prepared. And mentally prepared is not like, you know, kind of getting ready to get like slapped in the face. I know what I have 5 boys, so they play crazy games. And these are games that, you know, they'll sit there and be like, Dad, let me punch you. And so I gotta be like mentally ready to take this punch. What I'm talking about is a mindset that you always have, that you not just in the moment, but that you always walk around with, being mentally prepared. What does being mentally prepared look like? So our levels of awareness are like this. So you have low awareness. That's kind of like you watching TV in the security of your own home. Moderate awareness. So you're out, you know, out in public with friends and families, but there's a lot of people around. So you're kind of more aware because you're looking around, you're looking and you're kind of scoping out your environment, making sure, hey, if if there's an emergency, I can go here. Here's the exits. If I'm in class, here's the exit. Things like that that you often think about. That's that moderate level of awareness. Your high level of awareness is, say, for instance, you visit a new location that you're unfamiliar with, right? You kind of treat places like this. It's kind of like if you go if you're traveling for business, right? You're traveling for business. You wouldn't do the same things in that area, especially if you're unfamiliar with, that you would do in your own neighborhood. Like, you can know in your own neighborhood, you probably will jog around the neighborhood and you have your AirPods in, or you're listening to music, you're listening to a podcast, but you go someplace that you're unfamiliar with, all that stuff changes, right? I would hope so. All that stuff changes, that you would start to dial in the whole situation as a whole, the whole area, and start to think about, hey, this is unfamiliar to me. I need to make sure that I'm aware, that I'm focused of the place that I'm in, because I don't know where things are. So being able to be able to move through these different levels of awareness is key in your mental preparedness, and not to be a victim. Personal awareness, the puppy. Everybody likes the puppy, right? Cute pup. So personal awareness, I mean, think about it. Pets, right? So you're at home, somebody's at your door, right? Sometimes if you have pets, dogs bark, things like that. Just being personally aware of your surrounding. That's a good thing to have. You go for a walk, take your puppy with you. You go for a walk, take a friend with you. Things like that, just to make sure that someone has your back, that there is something there, especially if you're taking your cute little pup for a walk, that will alert, to get you back on track, to make you aware of the things that are going on. Mental conditioning. The Boy Scouts have a motto that says, be prepared. And the meaning of the motto is that a scout must prepare himself by previous thinking out of the practice of how to act on any accident or emergency, that he is never taken by surprise, right? So when you think about it, it's almost like this. Mental conditioning, you see yourself, and it's crazy, but it works. You see yourself in every situation that can possibly happen, and you have basically given yourself a way out. You have thought about the whole process, and given yourself a way out. We do this, and when I was playing football, we would do this in sports psychology. We would actually mentally play the game in our head. We would see the blocks that we had to make. We would see the catches that we had to make. We would see all these things before the game even happened. And I'm talking about not just the day before the game. I'm talking about days before the game, maybe weeks before the game. You know who you're playing, and you already mentally prepared and mentally conditioned yourself to do certain things in that game. So when that game actually happens and you're faced with those situations, you don't freeze. You don't freeze. You actually push through it and you get the job done. So it's the same thing in regards to mentally preparing yourself for any type of traumatic experience, any type of emergency, any type of maybe violent assault that might come up to you. It's to mentally prepare yourself and to be mentally conditioned, that you have already played this thing over in your head, and that now you're ready, and that it never takes you by surprise. So options during a confrontation. So here's some options. So you could call for attention. If somebody's trying to attack you, you can always call for attention from people nearby, and you can flee or you can fight. You can actually fight. Has anybody ever told you can fight? Seriously. Has anybody said it? Or they just say, hey, kind of be passive, kind of, just go with the program, right? You've heard that, right? I've heard that too many times. Like I said, I have 5 boys. I tell them, and I tell my wife, I tell them the truth. I said, if something happens to you, I'm not coming for you. because that's the reality, because I won't know until somebody lets me know. So what do I tell them to do? I tell them to defend yourself. You need to fight. You have the right to defend yourself. You know, I look at it like this: we're all blessed to have life, and I believe that we're allowed to defend ourselves, to preserve our lives, and that I'll be the first one to stand up with you and say, yeah, I told them to kick that dude's behind because they were coming after them. I'll be the first one to stand up with you and go toe to toe with whoever wants to talk about that. But I believe that you're allowed to defend yourself. You have this this God-given right to defend yourself if someone wishes to do harm on you. So fleeing and fighting, yes, fleeing and fighting is totally fine. Self-defense weapons, you see it: pepper spray, knife, or firearms. Don't walk around, don't tell them, Officer McBride said I can walk around with my gun. Don't do that, because I didn't say that. I didn't say that at all. You can't walk around with a gun. As a matter of fact, you can't bring a gun on campus. So don't do that. And then if regarding, you know, personal weapons, you can bring pepper spray. Pepper spray is totally okay to have, and you can actually have knives, but your knife has to be under, what is it? It has to be under 2.5 inches long. So I don't want to see anybody with like swords or anything like that coming to campus and y'all blaming it on me saying Officer McBride said I can defend myself. Don't do that. So we'll talk. But you are allowed, you definitely are allowed to bring these things on campus, not a firearm though. So the 3 components for success are this: psychological preparedness, physical conditioning, and mental toughness. And that physical conditioning is not necessarily can you run 5 miles. It's not necessarily that. But what it is conditioning to train your muscles not to give out. So has anybody ever heard of like jujitsu, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? So that is a good self-defense martial arts to get into. That's really good because it actually puts you at disadvantages, especially, I mean, you start off on the ground in a lot of different positions, and you can fight your way out of it. So I think the Wooden Center actually has these type of self-defense classes that you can actually take and get involved in. But even in the neighborhoods that you live in, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu has, I mean, taken the world by storm, and there are amazing gyms in probably everybody's area that's on this Zoom. So take advantage of those. Anybody like to box? No? Okay, it's okay. Learn how to box though. You should learn how to throw a punch. So yeah, exactly. You should learn how to throw a punch. But it's good because you can defend yourself. The more tools you have to defend yourself, the more confident you are when you step out into the world. And that's really ultimately what we want. We want you to be confident, and we don't want you to be afraid, because this is the thing about people that are out there, you know, trying to do harm in communities, is that they want you to be terrorized. They want you to stop your way of life. And then that means they win. And we don't want to give them that power. We don't want you all to turn over that power to people to make you afraid to live your lives. You all have too much to live for, and y'all doing some amazing things. So, I mean, just keep moving, keep fighting, keep going after it. I can't even see that because my Zoom picture is blocking. But yes, never giving up. Remember that. That's key. Never giving up. No surrender. So these are also things to think about if you decide to take action um, in some kind of criminal encounter, or you have this altercation with somebody. All actions taken during this confrontation, are they ethical? Are they legal, moral? And what are the physical ramifications? Is the act justified? Yes, you have the right to defend yourself. Is it fair? Is it fair? You have to look at the totality of the whole situation. Is it fair? This person came after you, and you're 5'2" and they're 6'5", and you decided, hey, I know a punch won't work, but this brick will. So I mean, you really have to start thinking about things like that. Here's the truth, like real talk, and like I said, I'm just gonna keep it real with you. I don't want you all to think that you need to fight fair. If somebody's trying to hurt you, all bets are off. They're not trying to hurt you for points. They're not trying to get a acting gig. They're legitimately trying to hurt you, and all bets are off. You have that right to defend yourself. So, like I said, are there other options? Yeah, maybe. But at that moment in time, these were the options that I decided to use to defend myself. Would those actions be considered reasonable by a normal person or lawful by a court of law? Yes, because they look at the totality of the situation. It's the same thing in law enforcement. And I know we've all seen it on the news, and some of us make us go, ooh, that probably wasn't right. But there are those moments where it's like, okay, that was fair. Some actions may expose you to the possibilities of a civil lawsuit or criminal prosecution. Those are things that you have to take into consideration, but don't allow them to be the things that you're thinking about, and you don't defend yourself. A lot of people think about civil lawsuits and criminal prosecution, and they're being attacked. And we don't want you to think about that stuff. We want you to defend yourself, get away from the situation, and then talk about all that other stuff later. And the last thing, you could be severely injured or worse, which is true. So out for a walk. Anybody avid runners, or I like to go on your daily or nightly strolls? Yeah. Okay. Do you text while you're walking? Let's see. Are you talking on the phone? No. Okay. So you kind of super focused, right? We see that all the time. You all probably seen it here at UCLA. You could be driving and you see somebody texting like right into the crosswalk, and they don't even see what's going on. Are they on the phone? Are they, distracted, and all kind of stuff going on? And you like, that person did not see me at all, at all. And these are some of the dangers that people deal with on the daily. And it's wild, because a lot of times we get this we get comfortable where we are. UCLA makes you, for some reason, it just totally makes you drop your guard. You think you're in this bubble. They call it, what, the Bruin bubble. You think you're in this bubble and that everything is great. It's always sunshiny, rainbows and flowers, and that's not the case. That's not the case at all. And so we want you to be more aware of things that are going on. So when you're walking on the street, always face traffic. We say that because you can see these cars coming at you. If you're walking away from traffic, and that's like if you're going on a walk, and you're walking away from traffic, or you're running away from traffic, you never know if somebody has to get over or swerve. Usually if you're running from the front, you can see all this stuff that's taking place. if a car stops and asks you for directions, stay far enough away from the car so the person can't grab you. And you can always say you don't know. It was probably, gee whiz, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I was in detectives. When I started off in detectives, that was one of the big crimes that we saw. People would ask for directions, but they were doing other stuff. When they had young ladies walk up to the car, but it was probably getting to a point where it was going to escalate. And if they had gotten closer, they probably would have tried to grab some of those young ladies in the car. So, I mean, if a car stops and asks you questions, you know what? Keep going. Keep going. Everybody and their mama should have Google Maps. So keep it pushing. Just keep on going. Don't even stop. Don't even stop. If you feel threatened or intimidated by the occupants of the car, run the opposite way. So that if they would have to come after you, they'd have to make a U-turn or get out of the car. Just run the opposite way. And honestly, start yelling, start screaming, start going to a place. If it's at night where that's well lit, and there's a bunch of people around, start doing that. Like it says, run into a business or up to a house where someone is home and ask if they'll call the police. A lot of our smartphones, if you run with your smartphone, do y'all walk and run with your smartphones, with your cell phones with you, right? Did y'all set up yet? Like, you press the button like 3 times or something like that. And then next thing you know, everybody is coming, the whole cavalry, everybody's coming to save you. Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. I've done that plenty of times. My mother-in-law, when she had an Android, she used to hit it all the time. We always thought something was happening to her. She throw it in her purse and the thing go off. And we're like, Mom, you all right? So you can actually set that up. You can set that up on your phone. Those are really good things to have because it helps you. It just gives you something that you don't even have to really think about. You could just, if you're just clicking on your power button, and then it sends an alert. It actually sends your location and it dials your, I think it's like dials your emergency contacts. So I think that's always cool to have with you. So you're always walking around or running around with your smartphone. Never get in the vehicle, threat or not. Never get in the vehicle. I mean, you see those movies when the bad guy jumps down, like, get in the car, and they jump in the car. No, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it at all. Run. Seriously, I'm telling you to run. Run, yell, scream, all at the same time. And that will keep you safe. If you, like I said, if you get in the car, that's like no one knows what happens after that. And we don't want to take those chances. Always walk briskly with confidence, right? You don't want to walk with your head down. You don't want to walk, you want to walk with confidence. So you don't want people to look at you as a victim. So when you walk in, I mean, even if you walk in and like you got this mean look on your face and you're going like this, do that too. You can, no, don't do that. You can, but if you want, but you want to always present yourself as being confident and not being a victim. Because that's what people prey on. They prey on folks that are not aware, that are not paying attention to their surroundings. And that actually they think that it's easy for them to victimize. But we don't want that to be you all. Be aware of blind spots or bushes around buildings, right? If you know your surrounding and you know the area that you're going for walks, you always want to be aware of those. A lot of the times, and hey, this is me. I'm 6'1", 265, and I still, if I'm walking around at night and I see like cutaways where I think people can hide, I'm not going by there just because I'm a cop. I'm making a wide, like left or right, just so I can get at least eyes on the area, and that no one can jump out, and try to hurt me or anything like that. Don't walk down deserted alleys. Don't walk down alleys, period. Even if it's like, hey, this is the fastest way to get to my destination. No, avoid it. Avoid it if you can. Avoid those alleys. Avoid dark areas. Don't walk in dark areas because you just don't know who's there lurking. When you're being dropped off at home or at a building, Have your friend wait until you get inside. Here's the thing. If you're on a date and the person does not walk you to the door, that is the last date. I'm just letting you know that right now. Okay. That's the last date. Get out of the car, walk you to the door, period. So when you're walking through a deserted parking lot, have your keys ready. So always be prepared, have your keys ready. Your keys can also double as a weapon. And you want to always have those in your hand. Most of the cars have key fobs, so you can click on it. If somebody tried to come after you, you can hit the panic alarm, freak people out, do whatever you have to do if you're being approached while you're walking to your car. And it says, when shopping, be aware of individuals or cars that might approach you when you're leaving stores and stuff, and they see you with packages and things like that. Always be aware of that. Like I said, make sure you have your keys in your hand so that no one can take you by surprise. Keep looking around, especially if you are parking in underground parking, especially during holiday season. Try to find someplace close to the door where you can actually, it's a shorter distance from the store to your car, especially if you're parking any kind of like subterranean parking structure. ATMs. Does anybody still use ATMs? No, right? I know I do too. Every once in a while, I do. I use ATM. Okay, so for those that use ATMs, be aware of your surroundings. Still be aware of your surroundings. Another thing I do at ATMs too is I check, the little part, the slot where you put your card. I kind of check that. I mess around. I wiggle that to see, because a lot of times people put card skimmers up there. I mean, you can just pull those bad boys off if it's fake. And I've been hit like that before. I used the ATM before, and next thing you know, I had a charge of something in Alaska, and I was like, I have not been to Alaska, so I know that wasn't me. So you always want to make sure, especially at night, you want to make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. If you can avoid going to the ATM, if you really need to go to the ATM, go someplace that's well lit, like go inside. 7-Eleven, they always are open, and they don't charge you. I don't think they charge you that much. So if you can find something like that, go to those. If someone approaches you, if you walk up on an ATM and somebody's there, just kind of hanging out, don't go. If somebody approaches you while you're there, get away. The drive-up ATM, that's if you use the ATM and you need to go. You always want to make sure that you prevent somebody from walking up on your driver's side. And like we said, avoid using ATMs at night or unlit areas. Even those, it's kind of weird, because even those banks that have those rooms that you can access with your ATM card, some people rig those, and we've seen it, because I've actually, when I was on patrol, I was trying to figure out how people were in there and they were just hanging out, so there are ways to get in there without actually doing business. So you want to try to avoid those if you can. Elevators are scary, huh? Sometimes the elevators freak you out when you get on and people you don't know, right? Totally. It messes me up too. I get on like, I was like, what? But you know what it is? Honestly, it's because we've seen too many movies and there's fights in the elevator, right? Let's be honest, right? We've seen those movies, and in your head, you plan it out. You're like, all right, this person grabs me, I'm throwing them this way, and then I'm gonna do this, and then, yeah, we've all done that. Yeah, elevators. There's always ways that you can protect yourself in the elevator, which is basically, honestly, just like, yeah, you can stand near the control panel. You can always be aware of the people that are coming in. Always be on alert, and then keep all of your valuables away from other occupants. So, you know, they can't just grab your stuff and take off the elevators, and always be ready to defend yourself. So that's when all those movies that we watched, when people try to fight in the elevator, that's when all that stuff comes into play and you get to practice. No, I'm just joking. Don't do that. Don't do that. But everything that you need, like, it really just comes down to just being aware, just really being aware of your surroundings. And if you're aware of your surroundings, and if you're confident, and you have this, you know, you're giving this attitude off of confidence, and that you're not a victim, you'll actually be okay. You'll actually be okay. But like I said, ultimately, like, really, if someone tried to attack you, you really have to defend yourself. And it's okay. It's okay to defend yourself. Does anybody have any questions?
I have questions, but also there have been some wonderful things in the chat, and I know you can't see the chat because you're in presentation mode. So if you'd like to stop sharing your screen, I will read some of the wonderful things that were dropped in the chat, and then I'd like to encourage everyone to unmute yourself and jump in. So. One person was Carmen. She said, I was attacked in my own neighborhood, the one I grew up in the middle of the day. So it can really happen anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's when you were talking about, you know, you usually, if there's somewhere you haven't been, you have a heightened sense of alertness. But when you're somewhere you're familiar with, maybe your guard goes down. But Carmen is really speaking to why that's not a good strategy anymore, right?
Yeah, and it's not. And I think, you know, just because of you know, the way society is now, and it's kind of become, and it's sad to say, but, you know, like, it just seems like sometimes people just don't care about folks. And, you know, that's sad to say, that we live in a society that's now kind of going more selfish, you know, like really being selfish, and like a lot of these things are happening. Like, you really do have to be aware. And Carmen, I totally understand. Like, even when I'm in the when I'm in my neighborhood that I grew up in, like, it's weird, but I'm more I would say I'm more aware also, because, you know, it's the neighborhood we grew up in, but it has changed, you know, since we've moved away, you know. So I think thinking about that and understanding more, this is not the neighborhood that it was when I was the kid, you know. So that is, you know, it is good to have that sense of awareness, even in neighborhoods that you're familiar with. And I'm so sorry that happened.
Same. I'm sorry too. And Carmen had another really good point. You talked about 2.5-inch blade on campus. She said that in California, it's generally 4 inches. Is that a specific difference for UCLA's campus to reduce it to 2.5 inches versus 4 inches?
You know, the blade is 2.5 inches, but the overall length, I believe, is 4 inches. And I think that's totally fine. That's totally fine. The big thing is this. The big thing is this. As long as it's not for California, for knives, things like that, as long as it's not like an automatic knife, like and a lot, like butterfly knives are not allowed in California. Cane knives, like any of that stuff you've seen on James Bond, that stuff is not cool. You can't have it. That's illegal.
Also, I wanted to add to that. So I think if you have a 4-inch, anything bigger than 4 inches that is not automatic, as you said, needs to be shown, like you have to carry it where people can see it. And if it's under 4 inches, that it needs
then it's
to
be a pocket knife.
Hidden, right?
Yep. Yeah. So like, anything over 4 inches, it has to be in a sheath and visible, because it's not considered concealable. And if you have a 4-inch fixed blade knife in your pocket and you get you know, caught with it, then you could be arrested, because then that knife should have been on your hip, exposed. You use it as a concealable knife, so it ends up being like a dirk or a dagger type crime.
Okay. McKenna had a great one in the chat. She says, I think I remember a video of someone attacking an Asian woman who tried to run into a store to get away from them, and an employee held the door closed so she couldn't get in. How worried do you think we need to be about something like that?
You know, it like, I don't know, that like real talk, like that bothers me because that really shows, I don't know, it just shows people don't like, they don't care. Like you see someone actively like getting attacked, and instead of helping, you shut the door on the person that's the victim. That's like, I don't know, that's I don't know, that bothers me. That bothers me a lot. And I think, the only thing I can say is, yeah, be aware of things like that. But if you ever put in that situation, be the good Samaritan and help the person out. That's the only thing that we can do to stop that type of behavior. I just like, it's someone was telling me, as a matter of fact, today about another situation like that there was someone being attacked, and instead of helping the person being attacked, they just started filming,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, you see a lot of that too,
yeah,
because
you
you
see a
see the
lot of that.
videos, right? And you're like, well, who's all helping if
Who's
everybody's
helping?
filming,
Yeah,
right? Because,
who's
yeah,
helping?
so, yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
that's a good point.
it's like the world seems to have become callous to a lot of the things that are going on, and because it happens so much, we kind of, it's almost like you just kind of desensitized to it. It's but that's even in law enforcement is the same,
Mhm.
and it's sad, it's sad that that's where society is going.
Yeah,
I mean, it just totally, breaks my heart.
absolutely.
Sorry, I wanted to add to that
Please.
because I know a similar story that turned out a different way, actually. So the person that had killed Brianna Cupford in that furniture store was seen a couple weeks before that in the Eagle Rock Highland Park area.
Hmm.
And there was a woman that was jogging in the area, and she came across that man. They crossed paths, and he was coming after her, and she feared for her life. So she got to the nearest, I think it was like a machine shop, like, and the mechanics there, they were men. So I guess the person that wanted to hurt her, felt like, I guess, like he couldn't do that with them there because they did help her, and
Yeah,
they kind of, took her inside the machine shop until he went away. And then a few weeks later, he killed that young lady.
yeah. It's, I don't, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to even sit up here and say I know I have the answers to it, because I just don't. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why some people, choose to defend, and then other people choose to just say, I'm staying out of this because I don't want, I don't want, to get involved with this. I don't. Um, but I think, it's time that we really have to look out for one another. Um, I think that's necessary. And then we have to, uh, you know, in knowing that people won't necessarily come to our rescue, we have to be um, ready to defend ourselves, and however we need um, to get out of those terrible situations. It's crazy because, like, if that would have happened, and you have that person, um, and I don't know, the criminal justice system is kind of going back and forth on a lot of different things. They would probably say, or the police officers would say, well, they didn't do anything, and that's if somebody actually called and said, hey, we got this dude, he's chasing, he chased this young lady into our machine shop. Um, why don't you come out here and do something about it? And a lot of times, like I said, the police officers, they get callous. They feel like, okay, well, the judicial system is not supporting them. and then they don't pursue it, and then you have these situations that happen because they didn't. But even then, you try to figure out like, okay, well, what happens if they do arrest this person for or talk to this person, whatever they legally can do because they did what they did. um, a lot of times the police officers are saying, well, they'll be out in a few hours anyway because they're not going to prosecute. They're not going to hold a person for this or for that unless it's violent. And then that's my thing is like, why do we have to wait until something is violent for somebody to do something about it, for the system to do something about it, when we all, everybody's here. It doesn't take being a police officer to know when somebody is like, if that person would have caught me, they would have probably did something violent, to be able to articulate that. And I think, that's where we are right now. And it's sad. That's why I think, when it comes to how do we keep society safe? How do we keep our community safe? Is everybody working together and realizing that like we need each other. Like we legitimately need one another, to be able to make it. Like that's the only thing that's going to get us, through all of this is us depending on one another.
Yeah, good point. Justine wrote a very good one, and I wish I had thought of this, Justine, and you wrote it very well. She says, what do we do if we get threatened with a weapon and we don't know how to fight someone with a weapon?
So you get threatened with a weapon, run away. Like if you can get into a place where you can run away, like, if the person just pulls a knife out on you, run the opposite way, go, yell, scream. You have to get away because you just don't know. Like, I think that's, like there's so many schools of thought that say, hey, be passive, go along with the program because maybe this or maybe that. But now, I mean, you're just seeing that it's like, maybe, it's like it ends up being negative. The outcomes end up being negative. And it's just like, that's why I say, I'll be honest, like, like my wife has pepper spray. My wife has her keys. My wife has a pocket knife, like everything that you can imagine, with the exception of her carrying a gun, she has. And those are the things that I tell, like I said, I tell her and my son, I was like, look, I'm not coming for you. If something happens and somebody approach you, fight like hell. Make them understand that this was a bad move on your part to mess with me. And that means you go for everything. And I'll be honest, you hit, you punch, you grab your keys, you hit all this area right here is sensitive. And it makes the biggest person fall. And you just go for that. You just go for that. And it's crazy. But, we've never really taught that. Because we always expect people to, sometimes we just expect people like, this couldn't happen. It's like, this really cannot be happening now. And in that moment, you freeze, when things are going on, and we don't want you to freeze. We want you to fight your way out of it.
I want to speak to that, and I'm going to recognize Krisha in 1 second, but I did have a training by someone who was a rape survivor. And in the training, the one thing that she told us to do was to breathe. She says, when you're attacked, you clench up and you tighten up and you actually stop breathing. And when you don't breathe, your brain can't work and you can't think. So she said to try and force yourself to breathe. And then all of those things that you talked about, Officer McBride, about the muscle memory, about how to fight or how to get away. And she told us some things that are not fair fighting, but it's a way to get you out.
Oh, yeah.
But the main point was to breathe. And I guess I don't think many of us realize that when we're attacked, the first thing we do is go, and when we do that, we're not breathing. So I just wanted to make that point. That is one thing I did keep with me after that one workshop that I had. And now, Krisha, you had a question. You want to just unmute and ask?
Yeah, so I was wondering about like the carrying the knife. Just like I had read that, you know, if you're not properly trained on using a knife, it can be like turned against you. Is that something we need to be concerned about? And also, like, how do you get trained on using a knife? Because I don't know if there are classes for that or anything.
So, there is a for knife training, knife fighting. Yeah, people say that all the time. They say, well, if you don't know how to use a knife, then it could be turned on you. Well, first off, if I'm being attacked and this person don't know I have a knife, it's not going to be turned on me, because I'm gonna use the knife because I'm trying to get away. If you go ha, then yeah, you probably got a problem. But there are like some really good martial arts out there. Actually, one is called Kali Eskrima. It's a Filipino martial arts, and it was done. They usually use sticks, but the sticks basically are translated into knives, into blade, like edge weapons. So the stuff that you learn with the sticks, you could do the same thing with knives. So it teaches you, and it's pretty cool. It actually teaches you. It teaches you how to block and then come in with the knife. It teaches you all kind of cool stuff just to defend yourself. And I would get into something like that too, like close kind of. There's different martial arts, like Kali is one. I know Kempo is another form of martial arts, and even, like I said, jujitsu, where close quarter type stuff, you can defend yourself from stuff like that. Somebody put a hand on you, you can do like a wrist lock and get their hand off and then run, things like that. And you don't have to be a giant person to be able to do all that kind of stuff at all, because it's all joint manipulation, and your body hates pain. So if you take me one way, I'm going. So those are things just to take into consideration. What you were saying, Audrey, about breathing is huge, because in the fight or flight thing, that's exactly what happens. When you panic, your body is basically rushing all of that blood into the extremities to keep you, like, to make you make that decision, like, hey, I need to run. So blood's going to my legs so I can get going. But when you freeze, I mean, we all know you could faint, you can, hyperventilate, you could do all that kind of stuff. So it is important. It is important to breathe. It's funny, when I was skateboarding, this was like 6 years ago. I was skateboarding with my sons, and I blew out my knee, and I don't even know how it happened. I just remember I started falling and I hit the ground. And my son, he's 16 now. The 16-year-old, he was little. He was like in first grade. He ran over to me and he was like, "Combat breathe, daddy." So that's what he started telling me. And I thought about it, I was like, he's right, because if I'm freaking out, I'm gonna lose it, So yeah. So I mean, yeah, the breathing totally works. And then you can think and make that next move.
Yeah, that's exactly what she told us. Like, breathe, and then you can think, and all these wonderful things that you taught us about, going through in your mind. No one wants to really think they'll ever be attacked. But the reality is, unfortunately, it's the times we live in, it might be the case. And so to have some kind of plan or some idea or about that, and to have your pepper spray, I just want to be clear. Is it true that bear spray is illegal to use on a human? Is that a
Yeah,
fact?
you know what? I heard that. So you got to have mace or pepper spray.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
bear
pepper
spray.
pepper spray sucks. We got pepper sprayed in the academy. That was the
Oh,
worst day of my life.
yeah. Nope,
Yeah,
that's not good.
honestly. Like, I don't even carry pepper spray. When I was working patrol, I stopped carrying pepper spray because I was afraid that it would like magically explode on me and I'll be like
Yeah,
all
yeah,
messed up. I was that fearful of pepper spray.
I understand.
So yeah, it does wonders. I'll let you know that now.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Thank you. Thank you so much, Officer McBride. Everyone really appreciates the great tips and information that you shared with us tonight. On behalf of we at UCLA, ACMW, SWE, and WAT, We really, really thank you for this workshop, and we look forward to working with you again. Have a good night, be well, and stay safe. Good night, everybody.